But his enemies, and every young man has enemies, are hearing these rumors and thinking one of two things: that they can try him or they could push up on his girl. And he gonna have to make it clear to them that while he ain't gonna fight over no girl, he damn sure gonna fight to protect her. And she ain't available till he done with her. This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, Resurrection, Part 2. When we left off, Saint and Sincere were heading back to Paris. But first, they had to get an understanding. And apparently, so did Janelle and Natalia. And in Denton, Texas, Bosch and Big Wood had to get an understanding too. When Q asked Big Wood if he was just gonna show up in Denver or if he wanted True to get a heads up, Big Wood said, "I got it." Q nodded his head and said, "You're gonna need a new cane. And you're gonna have to get your mind together, bro. Because the rage that's coming off you is like hot steam on coals." Big Wood said, "I'm good." You said, "You're not, but we'll have to talk about it later because I got a whole nother situation at the crib that I need to handle." Q's interruption of Big Wood and Bosch's conversation was slightly delayed because right before he headed out of the door, Michael headed in it. He was supposed to be at the main house with the grandmother crew, helping them with the younger children. They were one grandmother short. After Miss Bernie's death, Anya was due any minute, so she wasn't much help. And Regina was at home taking care of her man because he'd been shot in the hip during Operation Reborn. While his injury was not life-threatening, it did exacerbate the injury that LJ sustained that caused his retirement from the police department back in North Carolina. So when Michael walked through the front door, Q said, "What you doing here?" Michael said, "I got a problem, Pops. I need to talk to somebody." Q said, "You're going to have to talk to your mother because I need to go handle something." Michael said, "Oh, man." Q said, "What?" Michael said, "She gonna start with that 'I told you so' stuff, and I don't want to hear that." Q said, "Well, if it's about something that she already told you, you're gonna have to hear that. You can't be a hardhead all your life, boy." When Michael got to the kitchen and found his mother bagging up breast milk for the twins, he said, "That's nasty." Angela said, "No, it's nature. What's nasty is drinking non-human animal milk intended for their babies." Michael was like, "Now I can't unsee that. I'm never drinking cow's milk again." Angela said, "Why you here, son? Something happened over at the main house?" Michael said, "No, I got a call from Tamara and..." Angela said, "And?" Michael said, "She's all upset because one of the girls that she be hanging out with got upset with her about something and started a rumor." Angela said, "Let me guess. The rumor was about what you two did during your little disappearing act. Last season, Genesis, Michael and Tamara attended the school's spring dinner dance. They shook security, ducked off to a stairwell, and had their little crew cover for them. While they were gone, the ish hit the fan. Melissa and her personal protection slash emotional support dog came in and saved the day, and the couple magically reappeared when the fire alarm was pulled." When Michael just nodded his head, Angela said, "What did I tell you, son?" Michael said, "Ma, I don't need it. I told you so. I know. I just need to know how I can help her. She's really upset." Angela said, "In order to help her, you have to understand what I tried to tell you before the dance." Michael said, "I do. That's why I'm asking for help. I get that I'm responsible for the things that I do that contribute to how people see her. I told you, we ain't do nothing." Angela said, "Right. Whatever you did or didn't do isn't a factor. You made room for people to speculate. And they not talking bad about you. They talking bad about her. I don't tell you the things that I tell you because I wasn't a 15-year-old. When Mom Brenda and I talked about the things she wished she would have done differently when she was raising Marcus." Michael said, "Who?" Angela said, "Marcus, my first husband, remember?" Michael said, "Oh, that's right. Daddy wasn't your first everything." Angela said, "No, he wasn't. And I wasn't his first everything. Hence your existence." Michael chuckled and said, "I'm just playing, Mom." Angela said, "So like I was saying, your Nana Brenda told me that one of her parenting regrets was that she didn't see child rearing in the right light. She saw it as raising a child, but she should have seen it as raising a man who would one day be somebody's husband and the father of her grandchildren. Had she seen it that way, she would have done some things differently. But as parents, we don't know what we don't know. I'm sure that when you're an adult, your father and I are going to reflect on what we said and did and what we didn't. Hindsight is always 20/20. Michael asked, "What do that mean?" Angela said, "It means it's a whole lot easier to see what's behind you when you're looking in the rearview mirror. It's a whole lot easier to see what you did wrong, what you could have done differently when you're reflecting on things that have already happened. This lesson is multifaceted. Everything you learn at 15, 16, 17, 18, and so on, whether it all makes sense to you at the time that you learn it or not, needs to be stored away in your toolbox so that you can reach in, pull it out, and use it when you find yourself in a situation where it applies." People say if it doesn't apply, let it fly. I'm telling you that if it doesn't apply, file it away, because one day it will. The other lesson here is you can't drive a car staring in the rearview mirror. You're not going that way. Michael said, "You are if you put the car in reverse." Angela said, "If you left something a half a mile back, you're not putting the car in reverse to go back there. You're going to make a U-turn and go all the way back, but you're going to lose all your forward progress. Move forward. Some mistakes you just going to have to eat, and this is one of them." Michael said, "That's what you want me to tell Tamara?" Angela said, "No. One day, you're going to be someone's husband, and if God says the same, you'll be the father of my grandchildren. That's going to require you to lead. In this, you're going to need to lead Tamara in the understanding that she can't change what has already happened. She is not responsible for the stories that people tell themselves about who she is or what she's done. She is responsible for the things that she does that contribute to those stories. And the best way to get ahead of, around, or over a story someone tells themselves about you that is not true is to let them have it and let them see you unbothered." Michael said, "Okay, but if you was her, what would you say to people?" Angela said, "I've been her. LJ and I have been best friends since the 2nd grade. By the time we were in high school, every and anybody who had a grudge had ran with and helped to spread a rumor that he, I, and Regina were involved in a 3-way. Michael said, "Ew." Angela said, "My sentiments exactly." Michael said, "And you ain't punched nobody in their face?" Angela said, "For what?" I would have just convinced them that it was true. Getting all worked up, arguing, fussing, fighting, and cussing. Somebody is saying something that is summarily false just makes you look as stupid as they are. Regina's crazy behind came up with this hilarious idea that at the time I did not find funny, but it worked. We walked into the cafeteria, all 3 of us holding hands, went into the food line, and LJ carried our trays to our designated table. Then when we sat down at the table, we took turns feeding him from his tray. That man put his feet up, his hands behind his head, and closed his eyes while we fed him. And Michael guffawed. Then he asked, "How did that make things better?" Angela said, "The entire cafeteria was in hysterics. They talked, they whispered, and they pointed. But we never heard the rumor again. And after that day, we just went back to our normal friendship. All it took was for them to see that they couldn't move us. And that's what it's going to take to make these rumors die down." Michael said, "But we can't do nothing like that because I can't go to school." Angela said, "So you get creative. But no sneaking out of the house and no pornography." Michael said, "What?" Angela said, "Don't be sending no damn nudes." When Hugh got back to the house, Angela and Michael's conversation was over. He gave him a recap and he said, "I'll follow up with him after dinner." Angela said, "What? You're not satisfied with how I handled it?" Hugh said, "Nah, I'm satisfied, but your conversation was focused on how to help Tamara. It wasn't focused at all on what he needed to do as a man." Angela said, "You missed me." Hugh said, "I'm sure that whoever is spreading these rumors are saying things to him too. His real friends are probably saying it jokingly, but his enemies, and every young man has enemies, are hearing these rumors and thinking one of 2 things: that they can try him or they could push up on his girl. And he gonna have to make it clear to them that while he ain't gonna fight over no girl, he damn sure gonna fight to protect her. And she ain't available till he done with her." Angela said, "I don't like that." You said, "Of course you don't." Man who don't draw a line in the sand ends up eating it. Angela said, well, handle your business. How did things go with Wood? Hugh said, the doctor is bandaging up Bosch's wrist. It's broken. Then Manny's putting him on a plane in New York. 2 days later in Puerto Rico, CT was preparing for 8 o'clock service. His sermon was all prepped and prepared. His suit was laid out. He had breakfast with his wife and daughter, and security had a go time of 20 minutes. When he came out of the bathroom, baby Kari was all dressed, but Stephanie was not. He said, you okay, baby? And Stephanie said, no, my back is killing me. I think it's time. CT said, what you want me to do? You want me to stay home? Stephanie said, no, it's too late. You'd have to get the associate pastor to preach in your place, and that would ruin the whole plan. The general assigned to Stephanie and her family, Nathaniel Nate Jiminez, had informed CT that after they dug into Bruce and his story about why he was meeting with Rodrigo, the church administrator that CT had fired, they discovered 2 plots. One in Texas against his daughter Natalia and his wife, Miss Eugenia. Another against CT and Stephanie. The International Trafficking Organization had got wind of the fact that Rodrigo was disgruntled. They'd made contact with him, and he'd given them all the details about CT's pastoring of the church, his comings and goings from the office, and how security was handled at the convention center, where services were being held while the church grounds were under construction. So Nate had flipped the script. He'd used one of the International Trafficking Organization's tactics. Since they didn't have muscle of their own that they could use to come up against the Fire family, they'd use the same tactics that they used to recruit their members, turn dirt that they'd found on members of other criminal organizations into currency. They also hired criminal organizations and let their soldiers do their dirty work. So Big Nate did both. He laid a trap for one of the soldiers of the criminal organization that had been hired by the traffickers to get at CT and Stephanie. When that soldier fell in the trap, they blackmailed him for information. And then Nate found another soldier and offered him double what he was being paid to give him information. When all of the information was cross-checked, it was concluded that both soldiers had told the truth. There was, in fact, a plan to move in on a pregnant Stephanie, her husband, Pastor Corey Thompson, and their baby girl, Indira Kari Thompson, after Sunday service. Stephanie and baby Kari had taken to going to 8 a.m. service, and CT, being ever the protector, would leave with them after service, make sure that they were home safe and settled, and then return to the convention center for the 11:30 service. He'd stay there through the 1 p.m. service and return home well in time for dinner. Today was D-Day, and the plan was for the family to move like it was business as usual. They couldn't let their ops know that they knew that they were going to make their move. So CT said, but I don't want to miss the birth of another one of my children. When baby Kari was born, CT was in Denver, and Stephanie had used some home remedies to put herself into labor. She thought she was thugged out enough to deliver her baby at home and be done with it all. This go round, though, Stephanie was properly medicated, receiving therapy and ready to be a mother again. Stephanie said, you're not gonna miss it, babe. I already called Marisol. She's on her way. She's gonna check me out, make sure everything is good. Daniela is gonna ride with you and baby Kari. Daniela Lopez was Stephanie and Angela's second cousin. She and Stephanie looked an awful lot alike. Not enough alike to pass for one another, but with a fake baby bump, a short wig, and sunglasses. As long as Daniela didn't make too much contact with any other people, a previous test of her as Stephanie's double had shown that she could definitely fool people. So Stephanie told her husband that the plan was for Daniela to pretend to be Stephanie, feign a headache, necessitating her need to wear sunglasses inside the convention center. She'd drop baby Kari off at Children's Church just like Stephanie would, and then head to CT's office and lay down on his couch. When service was over, CT would pick up baby Kari, go to his office to collect his wife, and then they'd head to the car, follow the plan that security had already laid out. Meanwhile, in Dallas, the Queen Mother was still staying at the Lopez estate. Between visiting her grandchildren and her great niece, she's still been holding the Baptiste family down as Queen Pin, trying to keep Salima out of trouble, and trying to keep Donovan from shipping Portia off to an international treatment facility, while also enjoying her man, Idra Charles. Donovan called her and said that he had some foul family business to discuss with her, she told him to meet her back at her villa at the Lopez estate. And when she got there, Donovan said, "Ma, what took you so long? I told you it was important." The Queen Mother said, "Boy, I was at the hospital visiting your son, trying to teach these young mothers a thing or two. I don't know why these young girls don't understand that what you name these babies matter. In my day, we knew that nobody should hear or read your child's name and know your whole life." Maribel said, "What you mean?" The Queen Mother said, "They should not know your age, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status without even meeting you. When Citronella Tavius walks into pre-K, they're going to know all that." Donovan said, "Citra what?" The Queen Mother said, "You heard me. That damn girl talking about she loved the smell of citronella candles her whole pregnancy. Baby's daddy's name is Don Tavius." Maribel said, "She put the two things together?" Mother said, "Yes. And now the whole world's gonna know that she's 15 years old, broke as a joke and a damn nigga." And Donovan fell out laughing. Maribel said, I see your point, but when people hear my name, Dr. Maribel Lopez, they absolutely know my socioeconomic status and my ethnicity." Queen Mother said, "Tell me some ghetto Hispanic names. I'll wait." "And what you mean, Dr. Maribel Lopez? Your last name is St. James." Maribel said, "No, I didn't change my last name." The Queen Mother said, "Oh, y'all young people is something else. And why have you not changed your last name?" Maribel said, "Because it's my birthright. And it's not just a name with a title in front of it. It's a brand, a professional reputation that I earned with hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm not coming up off it." Queen Mother looked at Donovan, and Donovan said, "Wasn't worth the fight, my dear. But why I called you here absolutely is." When Donovan called the Queen Mother, he also called his big brother, Hugh. And that phone call ended the discussion that he was having with Angela. Donovan was not exaggerating. It was definitely an emergency. Hugh made his way to the Lopez estate as quickly as he could. When he arrived, Donovan had just finished bringing the Queen Mother up to speed on the budding situation from his perspective. Queen Mother said, "Why didn't you tell me that Clarence was making waves? Hell, why is Clarence even still alive?" You said, "You want me to kill that old man because he's concerned about his granddaughter's safety?" The Queen Mother said, "We got too much going on. Donovan does not need to be in a custody battle with baby Bella's grandfather because he believes that Donovan's lifestyle is somehow unsafe. And the reason why her mother and her aunt are both deceased thanks to gun violence." Donovan said, "Exactly. I'm not even in that life. And Veronica is dead because of Veronica's choices, not mine." Hugh said, "I told y'all that having Miss Bernie at the helm of Operation Reborn was a terrible idea, not just because she wasn't going to stick to the plan, but because family members start asking questions when civilians come up dead. We lost 3 soldiers in that operation. We gave their families our condolences, dropped a bag on their funerals, and accepted financial responsibility for their ongoing responsibilities, their wives, husbands, children. Hell, we taking care of one soldier's parents and his grandparents. Miss Bernie has one living relative, and not only has he filed for custody of baby Bella, but he called the cops." The Queen Mother said, "Yeah, he should be dead." Hugh said, "And you don't think that that's going to create more questions?" "Thankfully, we've turned over several of the men who were captured during that operation to the feds. Since they're handling the investigation, the cops have fallen back. But if anything happens to Clarence, you got to know that the cops in Moline are not going to go away as easily." Queen Mother said, "He is old and he has a serious illness." Donovan said, "A serious illness that my daughter's stem cells basically cured. That man could live another 20 years. Queen Mother said, "Old people get sick and die. I got to get back to the hospital and convince this girl not to name her damn baby Citronella Tavius. Handle this, Q." Q said, "What?" Queen Mother said, "You and Angela naming babies after cities. Donovan naming his son after legal terms. And these young broads naming their babies after their pica cravings. Talking about she was addicted to the smell of citronella candles. I'll be damned." Meanwhile, in Denver, True was flabbergasted. She'd still been updating the online journal that Miss Charlotte had asked her to start, despite the fact that Miss Charlotte was right there with her. But Miss Charlotte hadn't been sending her any messages, so she was confused about why she was getting a message on the secure server that Lorenzo had set up for her and Big Wood to communicate. She was in Denver and he was still in the field. Before she could click on the message, Miss Charlotte said, "So True, we need to talk."